Royal College of Arts, based in Information Experience Design Department, and I feel really, really lucky to be able to hear. And this nice weather as well, because you know we are from London, so we love sunshine. Anyway, so today I'm going to show you a project. It was a collaboration between the Zhangsong's museum, and it was called the material stories about the Zhangsong's life. So what's the Zhangsong's museum? So as you can see, it's the highlight of this museum. This is the former house of the Zhangsong, who was a neoclassical architect from the 18th century in England, and it was established in 1837, right after his death, and it is located in the center of London in Holborn, so if you would like to visit later. So as you can see, there are like thousands of exhibits in that museum, which is literally collected by Sir Zhangsong himself, and this is him in the center of his collections. So as you can see, apparently he's got a little bit like obsession with collection. Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, so he worked like all his life trying to make his house into a museum, which is a little bit creepy, to be honest. Like it started from like his 20s. So when I visited the museum for the first time, I was really, really shocked by this obsession, and I began to want to explore why it happened like this. So actually, he was like a really, really successful architect at his time. He was like a top student at Royal Academy, and he later teaching at Royal Academy, and was the chief architect for the design of Bank of England. And this is like kind of a selection of his work over his lifetime, and it was like drawn by Joseph Gandhi, who was like his a chief craftsman. So as you can see, this is the Bank of England, and it's a really, really intriguing way of perspective drawing. Like you can see, like these small drawings are the interior design of the Bank of England, and it's really nice way of showing his life work. And yeah, so moving on, this is also a little bit creepy, to be honest. It's like a visual representation of his house. So now it's the museum. So basically, over the time, researchers and academics, they would refer this architecture as the Zhangsong's both mental and physical headspace, which means it's kind of like his building and information architecture over the time. So which makes the space really, really special. So yeah, we were giving like references during this period of research. So one reference really interests me is from Kanyahara design. So he was stating in his book, saying that a designer creates an architecture of information within the mind of the recipient of his work. So bringing this question, I was really, really, really curious about why make this building like this, why he created his house like this way, and where does his obsession come from. But unfortunately, like most of his designs, even though he was quite famous and renowned at that time, was destroyed during the war. So we could only draw clues from his old house like this and his life stories. So well, yeah, as you can see, he got ups and downs during his lifetime. So that's the starting point of my research of like the life stories of him. So basically, he was the top student in Royal Academy, and he actually won like a traveling scholarship to Italy for his degree show, and that is the starting point of his collection. And yeah, his obsession with Roman ruins, something like that. and then he got like a really successful career. He was the honor professor in Royal Academy. He was like the Turner's colleague. They hang out together. Like he got his collection in his picture room, and like they go fishing together. So he got like a really successful career and wonderful friends. But however, he got like a really intense relationship with his family, especially with his sons, because like some of the successful persons, they would like their children to be as they. So basically, he wants his sons to become like successful architects as him. But it was teenage boys. So basically, one of his sons, his younger son, become an actor, which is quite well, in that time it's not that good for Zhang Song basically. So they had like a really really intense relationship, and they kind of stick. They fight all the time, and afterwards, because of his younger son, the actor, he writes an article in the Champion magazine, and personally attacked his father. And at that time, Zhang Song's wife, Mrs. Song, she was ill for a long time, and unfortunately, she read that article on that magazine. And after she read that article, she said, "I feel like I can't get better anymore," and she passed away shortly afterwards. So after a while, his older son, which is the people, also passed away. So Zhang Song suffered from a lonely last days because of the death of his beloved ones. So after researching on his life story, I go back to the museum again, and at this time I try to understand a little bit more about his life stories, connecting to the actual museum space. So as you can see, the first one is the picture room, which is like collections of his architecture drawings, like his degree show project, like the starting point of his career, the drawing of Bank of England, and the dining room, which is like the glamorous room of his house. We got his portrait, fireplace, library, everything, and Monk's Cellar, which is kind of an interesting place to talk about. So maybe you will ask why monk? It's his house, right? It's his house. Why there's a monk there? So basically, in his later life, he got a little bit mania in some way, and he began to imagine there is a monk living in his house. So that's the reason why he had this monk's cellar. And the story behind is, at that time he was apparently a neoclassical architect, but at that time Gothic, Gothic is kind of emerging, and he wants to show his potential client he's able to do so, and also his younger son is a big fan of Gothic style, so he also tried to show his love in that way, like building a Gothic palace in his house. And the crypt, which lies his design for his wife's tomb, and the gravestone as well, is a little bit dark, kind of dungeon-like thing, and monk's yard, which literally have a grave in the yard. But the interesting bit is he buried his dog instead of the monk in the grave, and that's kind of the interesting spaces in the museum, which I try to connect a little bit into his life story. Then I moved a little bit further because Zhang Song is initially an architect, so I was thinking why not to draw these building materials together and try to map them into his life story, and also into the narrative, also into the museum itself, into these different rooms. So I got wood frame, which related to the picture room, Portland stone, which is one of his most favorite materials in his architecture design, because this stone is quite specific, which is quite quite specific borrowed in the ISO of southern England, and they got like a fossil embedded inside, which is quite like nice in texture as well. So if you visit London for the Green Park Station, which is the station, if you visit Royal Academy, you will see this whole station built by Portland stone, and you can actually touch it and feel the ancient fossil embedded inside, and also red brick, which is also quite British, and black marble in particular, which is directly referring to the sorrow of his death, to the death of his wife, and also white plaster, because he got like loads of past plaster models around his collection as well to enable his students to draw, architects. So this is the material collections. So you can see them in the actual world. And so my project is trying to reveal this potential to empower visitors to touch, feel, and manipulate objects corresponding to the museum environment while seeing them and reading the related narratives, aiming to help visitors gain better understanding about the environment, also about his life story. So I'm going to pass around the object. Thank you. So as you can see, this design is compromised by a wooden box with 5 different pieces of building materials in it. And so the visitors can carry them around, shifting in different dramatic spaces and trying to feel the materials while they are visiting specific spaces in the museum. So the building materials, they are placed from left to right as a chronological order of his life, and also this order is also responding to the routine order from the ground floor to the basement of the museum. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, but Sir Johnson, he was kind of a museum nerd as well. He designed the visit route of the museum before he died. Yeah, so sorry. So that is also corresponding to the museum visit. And so basically the design is encouraging the visitor to deep up the materials and trying to reveal the narrative behind. And I was really lucky because the museum actually acquired this object as their handling collection, and there is like a follow-up research going on, trying to figure out about the visitors' use of it, and which is enable me to evaluate visitors' understanding of the relationship between Sir Johnson's life and the museum architecture. And my research direction is trying to figure out how to embed this narrative to museum experience through very specific haptic perceptions, like tactile perceptions. And I really hope this carry-on follow-up research will enable me to actually grounded research in actual practice. So that's all. Thank you so much for coming. Please contact me if you visit London and want to visit this intriguing museum. Yeah. Thank you.